Let's talk about Dancing Village, The Curse Begins. Hey everyone, it's David Starr from Watch or Pass. Today I'm here to talk to you about Dancing Village, The Curse Begins, which comes to American theaters on April 26, 2024. It is an Indonesian horror film that is the prequel to the highest grossing Indonesian film of all time. I'm not going to get the name right. The Indonesian name is like KKN D Desa Penari, something like that. It translates to The Dancing Village, and this is the prequel, The Dancing Village, The Curse Begins. So it tries to tell the kind of build up or a side story about the same Dancing Village, some of the same evil spirits. And my hot take is, look, I think you should watch it later. It has a great setting. It has a really good commitment to practical effects. It has some scares. So it has a really solid foundation for a horror movie. And it kind of starts to get its groove on, but I don't really think it can hit its stride. There's a few things I didn't love as much about it. It's a little bit slow, but that might be the Indonesian movie style. And it's not as scary as I was kind of expecting it to be. But overall, look, I enjoyed a lot about it. I really enjoyed kind of the setting and the use of practical effects. So I think you should check it out later. And if you've seen Dancing Village, which you can watch on Amazon Prime right now, then you will definitely want to check this out because this connects a lot of the things from the first movie. So all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then briefly go into the ending. So as you can imagine, there'll be spoilers in the ending section. If you don't know what happened in this movie, and you might not, there are some surprises that happen along the way. Then I would turn it off when I get to the ending. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So in Dancing Village, The Curse Begins, you have some college students who are going to this remote village to do, I think it's called KKN. It roughly translates to community service. I guess it's something that a lot of college students do in Indonesia, where you go and like do community service out as part of your like education. It's a really great idea. And I think a lot of American universities probably have something similar to that, depending on your major. Well, these unfortunate college students decide to go to this very, very remote village in search of this gate. And when they get there, it's a little bit more unsettling than you would imagine. And there is something about a dance and maybe like a curse involved. And look, I've been called cursed when I dance, but this is way more extreme than that. So, all that being said, things I liked about this movie. The first, look, I love the practical effects. This is not unique to this movie. I think Indonesian cinema and horror movies in general tend to have a really good commitment to practical effects, and this is no different. They have some really good like gore effects. There's not a ton of gore in this movie. It's 13 plus in Indonesia. I assume it'll be PG-13 in America, but they do have really good practical effects for some of the like more grotesque things that happen. There's like some blood that oozes out of people. There's a good use of blood. And there are certain animals that you see, specifically snakes. I think that those are all pretty much real snakes. I assume they're not venomous, but I don't know. I wasn't involved in the filming, but the film definitely uses practical effects, and it's a better film for it. The second thing I loved in this movie, and I'll call it like the physical movement. Again, this is something I've really noticed in Indonesian films. They have a really like the I don't know if it's the style or just the actors do a really good job with like some weird contortionist kind of movements, and this movie has it also. You get some people that feel like they can't control their hands, and so their hands are doing strange movements. There are some people that feel like they're possessed maybe when they're dancing. That looks strange and a little dysmorphic, and it looks really good. It gives you kind of an unsettling feel. So I really love that. Again, it kind of goes with the practical effects. It makes it feel more realistic if you don't have like CG doing this. You've got actual actors kind of moving their bodies to make you feel unsettling, because that looks unsettling and therefore makes it a more unsettling movie. The third thing I love, look, I love the setting. It is a really great horror setting. Isolated village, middle of the woods. Can't get much better than that. That is the perfect horror setting, and this movie has that. And the last thing I loved, look, it's a prequel, so you expect some callouts, and this film does have some, things that are related to the original film. I haven't watched the original film. I kind of really quickly like browsed through it. It is a 2.5 hour one for the uncut version. There's an extra 30 minutes they added for like I think the special home release. So it is about 3 hours of footage. I was not able to watch that for this movie, but they do have the same, antagonist, the same actor that plays the antagonist, and they have the same actor who plays like a shaman in this movie also. And I love that they did that. And they had a tough time because this is a prequel. It's supposed to take place years before the original movie. So the antagonist is fine because she's like a spirit, so she looks the same. But for the shaman, they like dyed his hair black. And so in the first movie, he has white hair, and in this movie, they dye his hair black and also use some like filters to make him look a little younger. But look, I love that they did that. It makes Fans of the original movie are gonna love seeing those characters back in this film. And they also reused some of the locations in this movie. I think there was a bridge that they used. They tried to make the bathhouse look similar. So they tried to kind of keep true to the original while making a prequel or side story, which I love. Fans of the first movie, I love those callbacks. So all that being said, things I didn't love as much about this movie. The first, it's a little bit slow. And this again might just be the genre. This might just be Indonesian cinema, but there's not a lot of horror bits to happen. There are definitely horror moments, but it feels like they are almost a little bit too few and far between in this movie. I was expecting maybe a little bit more scares, a little bit more kind of like building items, and it didn't get that as much. I think it's more of like a psychological kind of horror at times, and so some of that requires a lot of conversation, some of that doesn't require as many like big scares as I would have expected. So just know that the film is about 2 hours long or so, and it definitely kind of feels that at times. Now it does have a build up, and it has like a pretty kind of big conclusion, which is very impressive. So if you take your time, you get there, but it does take a while to get to that point. And the second thing I didn't love as much, it's just not really that scary. This might be the PG-13 rating. This might just be some of the horror aspects didn't really appeal to me as much, but the film isn't super scary. And that's okay. I mean, I think they do a good job with like the horror elements, but it didn't really get that under. And there's a few scenes that you're like, oh, that is freaky. But for the most part, there's not that many big scares. They are kind of like projected to you. So you don't really get a big scary sense. You don't really get a great sense of fear. So all that being said, Dancing Village, The Curse Begins, comes to American theater on April 26, 2024. So like I said, I think you should watch it later. You don't have to run out and see it in theaters. If you wait for it to come to streaming or on demand, I would do that. But if you do go see it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear it. And I'm going to really quickly go into the ending right now. I'll probably butcher a ton of Indonesian names, so you could stay for that. But there will also be spoilers. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, and you might not, again, there are some surprises in this film, I would turn it off because there will be spoilers. So Dancing Village, The Curse Begins starts in 1955, where you got the kind of the dancing ritual that happens. And I really quickly watched the first movie. I didn't remember this like specific of a ritual. Maybe I just didn't see it. Again, I was barreling through trying to just get some information about the first movie before or after seeing this movie. But it starts with like a dancing ritual where these the I think 7 women are dancing for this entity called Badarauhi, and she seems to be like the kind of leader, like the entity that kind of like controls this village. She seems to have everyone in like almost her grip. And what she demands is like, I don't know how often it is, but she demands that the village picks 7 dancers to dance at this ritual, and then she will choose one, I guess, to become like part of her dancing entourage. I guess she like takes them and like makes them in part of her own. And so it's essentially like a sacrifice, I think. Like the one that is chosen is essentially sacrifice. Now, what happened this time is that this village didn't want to do that. They didn't want to have like this. Oh, and I guess if they don't do that, then really bad things are going to happen. So this village doesn't want to do that. They don't want to like give up one of their daughters. They don't want to like be beholden to this entity. So this in this ritual, they steal her bangle, and you find out a little bit more information about this. After the dancing happens, a bangle appears in this box. I assume that they give that bangle to the chosen dancer, and something happens. But what they do this time is they take that bangle, give the box to someone else, and the bangle, if you don't know, is like a bracelet. It's a gold bracelet. This one has like a cool snake on it. And they give it to someone else, and that person like bolts and leaves the village and never comes back. That obviously angers Badarauhi, and so that causes some consequences for this village. But you don't see that until later. What you see is that 25 years later, you have this group of college students who are looking for this gate that one of them, this person named Mila, has drawn. And it's a fairly striking gate. They're trying to figure out where this is. They know it's like, I think, in the Java region of Indonesia. And so they are trying to find it. They do find someone that's able to take them to this village. And so they go. They are doing their KKN, their community service. I guess they're gonna go and help out this remote village. So when they get there, it's one female named Mila and 3 males who are all there, and they decide to stay. And I guess Mila has something that she needs to do. There's something from her hometown that she needs to be here for, but you don't find out what that is until later. And so until you kind of get that more information, what you know is that Mila is staying with this person, Rati, who like takes her in because she is the only female there. She stays in her house, and then the men all like stay outside. And you know, there are some weird things that start happening, like mainly like the first night everyone is like sleeping, and the lamp that they have to keep the lit, I don't know why they're keeping the light on when they're sleeping. Maybe it's just, custom, who knows. But it starts to kind of dim, and as it's dimming, you see all these strange and like people coming out from the woods. And one of the people, like one of the kids that are traveling with them, he like wakes up like half asleep, like messes with the lamp and gets it like up. He's still half asleep, so he like isn't even opening his eyes. And he fixes the lamp, and when that light turns back on, those entities just disappear. So it seems like they are in danger from the start. They're also in danger because in Rati's house, her mother is there, and her mother is sick, but not like cough cough. I have a cold sick. Her mother is like possessed sick. She has like boils all over her face. She like can't control her movements. She does has that like she moves her fingers in a way that feels like she doesn't have control of them, and she's like vomiting blood. So not a good situation. And I don't know if I was staying in a house like that, I would probably find a new place to stay. I guess she doesn't have any options, but Mila stays with Rati. Rati is taking care of her mother and trying to like make her feel better, but I don't really know what she's gonna do. Like her mother is like looks like she has both Ebola and I don't know some other plague type sickness. So after I think maybe the first night or the second night, Rati and Mila go to take a bath. They go to this bathhouse, which is similar looking to the one that was in the first movie. And when they're there, some more strange things start to happen. Like Mila gets in the water and Rati like gets in and is like seductively talking to her, and then Rati turns into Badarawuhi, who tells her to give her back her bangle. And then she disappears, and then the pool is filled with snakes. So not a good situation overall. Mila screams, she like gets out, and it seems like, that was all maybe in her head because when she gets out, the snakes are all gone. She's had a few like visions like that. So it seems like Badarawuhi is trying to like convince her to give her the bangle and like maybe threatening her with some of the things that are happening. Now, the boys are looking for this person named Buyut. He seems to be a village elder, but he also seems to be maybe like a shaman of some sort. And he is gone. He has disappeared for a bit. They don't know where he is. They don't know when he'll be back. And so we are all waiting for Buyut to come back so that they can, I guess, continue on their mission. I think Mila has to give him something or is supposed to give him something. Does she? Well, we'll find out. So that night, Rati mentioned something about a dance performance in a neighboring village and that they should go look at it. I don't know. It's a dancing village. You got cursed dancers. I don't really know if I would want to check out a dance nearby, but they do. Oh, well, just Rati and Mila do. So they go to this dance, and this is where you see like some of the cool like contortionist type things. It's not like crazy body dysmorphia, but they do look like they are moving, like they're maybe a little bit possessed. And you have a bunch of men all like shirtless, wearing like essentially like loincloths, dancing in this circle. And then you see Badra Uha. She shows up and tells Mila to give back her bracelet, her bangle. And Mila just like gives it back. I'm like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? Why would you why would you give her this bangle? Like she clearly is evil and she's clearly gonna do something bad with it, but Mila does anyways. And we find out why. Because well, before Mila gives the bangle back, she asks if her mother will get better. So we find out Mila's mother is sick, and she is hoping that if she gives the bangle back to Badarauhi, then her mother will get better. Now Badarauhi doesn't really say anything, which I don't know. I would try to get like at least an agreement. But Badr he just like kind of looks at her, and then Mila just gives the bracelet back. I was like, get like a contract or something, get her to agree before you do this. Like, give her this thing that she really wants. But I think Mila, maybe Mila is very trusting. She just trusts evil entities. Who knows? And then we find out that maybe Badr he was like directing this from the start. One of the things that Mila did early on was trying to like get information about where this village was, and so she went to see like a shaman of some sort. And when she was there was a weird interaction, but he told her where to go for this village. And now we see a flashback where like Badr he like appeared there and was like whispering in his ear, telling him what to say. So it seems like there was a lot happening. And then we also find out that Rati was involved as well. Badr like convinced Rati to help because she said that if Rati helped, then her mother would be better. And that is when, and so this, I think this happened at the bathhouse when they were there. Like Badr he was like talking to Rati at the bathhouse. But so she has been trying to orchestrate getting this bangle back for a while and has used multiple people. Now, are we gonna be able to trust her? Probably not. She's an evil entity, but who knows? So that night, after she gets her bangle back, there's a crazy storm, and Mila and the others want to leave instantly, as I would, right? You give this entity its power back, you don't want to stay there, but the storm prevents them from leaving, so they all stay the night. So that night, Rati's mother like becomes even more possessed. She like screams and like rips her flesh off. And during this, I think Badarawi takes over the mother and tells the girls that their mothers are in Ankara Murka, which is, I think that's Badarawi's realm. It's almost like the afterlife, I think, or like the underworld, maybe. I don't know. I don't know Indonesian. And so this is probably unsettling for both of them because they both thought that if they helped, then they would get better. Now, during this time, Buyut shows up and he like helps stop the possessed mother and fills them in on some more backstory. And again, Buyut is the same actor that played Buyut in the first sequel movie, the non-prequel. And so in that one, he had like gray hair and looked a little bit older. This movie, he has black hair. They dye his hair black, and they put like a filter over his face so he looks younger. And hey, like I said, I love it. I think that you should definitely try to use as many people from as many people to give fans like a sense of connection as they should. So I think that's a great move, and I'm glad they did that. And so we find out some more of the backstory and what the significance of this bangle was. And so we find out that in 1955, that first thing you saw at the beginning of the movie, the village elder, who I believe is Putri, she had twins. And so what happened was one of the twins was chosen to be a dancer. And so what they tried to do was switch it. The one that was chosen to be a dancer, I think her name was Janti, was switched with her twin Santika. And so during the dance, this happened, and so rather than like Jonty getting possessed, Santika was there, and I don't know why they switched it, but they did. And so when the bangle happened, they gave the bangle to I guess Jonty, although I have Ingri written in my notes. I don't know if that's like a nickname or something, but they gave the bangle to the other twin, and that twin booked it out of the village. Now, no one was supposed to know about this except for like the village elders. And so because of the sacrifice, because they got the bangle out, the village was free of Badawa Rawuhi's clutches, and they didn't have to, they didn't have to give a chosen dancer for 25 years. Now, Badarawuhi wasn't very happy about this, and so she took it out on Putri, who was the village elder, the one that like came up with this whole plan. So she for 20 years like suffered in the same way that Rati's mother and in the same way that Mila's mother suffered. Like when she died, it looked like she had the same kind of plague. So now that she has the bangle back, she can choose a dancer and the ritual will continue. And so everyone has to brace for it. Now, Buyut tries to prevent this. He tries to save Rati's mother. He uses a rare black chicken for this ritual. That doesn't work. I actually find out, later he goes outside and sees one of the like entities that Badrauhi controls eating the chicken, and then the next morning we find out that all the chicken was eaten. All the livestock in the village were killed and slaughtered, it seems like, probably because of Badarahui's wrath. So now they have to make sure to perform the ritual. They have to, Badarahui is angry, so I guess to make her happy, to prevent any more hardships, they have to perform the ritual. So the way that they do this is they have this cup of coffee, and everyone drinks from it. And if it's sweet, you have been chosen. If it's bitter, then you are not chosen. Wouldn't you know it, both Rati and Mila are chosen. They are two of the 7 dancers. And I was just wondering, like, look, if this village is so terrible, like, she's killing all your livestock, just move. Go somewhere else. Uproot. Leave. They didn't, I don't know, I guess they wanted to stay and fight, which is admirable, but it doesn't seem like they have much good odds against an evil entity. But they do the ritual. They have all the women dance, and what happens is as they're dancing, Badrao, he will like, essentially force them all to dance, and when she like cuts you, that person just collapses. I don't think they're dead. I think they just like collapse, and then they have to get like a sheet thrown over their head, so I don't know if that means that they can't be seen by Badrauhi, or at least they can't see the temple. For some reason, they get a sheet thrown over their head, and they get walked out. Now, during the dance, it seems like Badrauhi can't decide, so both Rati and Mila are dancing the entire time. And eventually, Badrauhi asks Mila if she will accompany her, essentially if she'll be her dancer. And Mila resists, and this causes her to pass out and essentially like leave Badrauhi's realm. But Badrauhi can't accept this, and so she makes Mila continue to dance. And so during this time, Mila gets transported to what is it called? Ankara Murka. I think, the dancers all get transported there, but Mila gets like really transported in there. She goes into like this, I don't know, sewer area where all these children like are like faceless, and there's horrible things. Eventually, she gets to see Badarauhi and all of her dancers, like all the dancers. I assume that she's chosen. There's like 30 something dancers here, all in similar dresses. It's a pretty elaborate looking setup. Are there? So the dancers are all dancing, trying to convince Mila to stay there, and Rati is there also. She's dancing against her will, and Badarauhi is trying to convince her to stay, and then she eventually says something like, stay with your mother, and that's when Mila's mother shows up, and she is dressed in a similar way. She is dancing, not uncontrollably, like she's dancing, she's being forced to dance, and Mila tries to run to her, but the other dancers in like a coordinated way like stop her. It's really cool looking. Like they'll like close it off, kind of like a human C, essentially, like close it off and like hiss at her and prevent her from seeing her mother. So eventually Mila tries to get to her mother and she goes into like a pure black state. Like the everything else is like black in this, like in the environment. And once she's there, she's with her mother, and her mother tells her that she has to go home, and Mila's like, I can't. And her mother says she can, and that she has to not never do what Badarauhi tells her to do. So Badarauhi tries to get her to stay after this in the full group, and Mila says no. And that's when Badarauhi starts punishing her mother, like breaking her bones, contorting her, making her hurt. And it seems like Mila might be forced to, but then we hear some barking, and it seems like this black dog that apparently Buyut can transform into. I think this was in the first movie. There was like a CG, like really yoked dog in there, and they didn't have a CG dog, which I think is probably better, but you don't ever see a black dog. You hear some barking and whatnot. It seems like it's all implied, but it seems like Buyut maybe went down there to help save them. You hear the dog barking. You sort of see a dog kind of like leave the house. You can't like see it, but it's like some stuff moves. I think some trees or some like bushes move. And so after this dog attack, Mila finally wakes up and she's back in the village. She's in Rati's house. And it looks like, unfortunately, Rati and Rati's mother did not survive. They were both dead. And so Mila was able to survive. She was able to get out of there, but Rati and Rati's mother didn't. And the bangle's there, I guess. I guess the bangle that was supposed to be, I assume, given to the chosen dancer is also in that room. Mila and the friends then decide to get out of there, as you expect. They don't want to stay. And so as they're leaving, we hear Buyut say, "You were the only dancer that was able to come back from Ankara Murka." And Mila says that she was able to come back because of her mother. So her mother like helped her get out of there. So Mila and her friends head back home, and we find out that all of it was for naught. When Mila gets there, her mother was dead, her mother had died, and she just makes it for the funeral. So it seems like, as you would expect, making a deal with an evil entity doesn't really end up well for anyone involved. Rati's dead. Rati's mother's dead. Mila's mother's dead. Mila's still alive, so I guess she survived, but most of the other people are dead. Now we go back to the village, and we see the village burying Rati and her mother. And someone asked Buyut what they should do now, and Buyut says he doesn't know, but there shouldn't be any more victims. So it seems like they are going to fight back against Badarauhi and try to prevent more victims. I mean, they kind of had that already. If they just take the bangle and throw it out again, she's not going to be able to get any more victims, or at least a lot of victims. So maybe they just do that. I assume that leads directly into the Dancing Village movie. Again, I haven't seen it, so I don't know exactly how it connects, but I assume that leads directly into the events of the Dancing Village. So that is Dancing Village, The Curse Begins. It comes to theaters on April 26, 2024. And like I said, I think you should watch it later. There's a lot I did like about it, but overall, it just was a little bit too slow and not scary enough to really kind of pique my interest. So if you do check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you. Called Badarauha and called Badarauhi and Badaruhari, and so Badarauha